Good afternoon. Our next speaker for today is architect Akshay Lakhanpal. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Space Matrix. He leads the company's India operations and projects with offices in Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Mumbai, Pune, and Delhi. He has more than 16 years of experience in the real estate sector, with a specific focus on project management, design, and general management. Besides the P&L for business, he is responsible for evaluating the impact of design on clients' business and for overviewing end-to-end delivery of projects, where he acts as a point of escalation. Additionally, he is very passionate about technology and how it can be utilized to enhance the experience of people while also beautifying design spaces. He comes with rich experience of having managed over 20 million square feet projects spread across 40 cities in India. He has worked on a wide spectrum of projects with clients in the corporate, retail, development, and institutional sectors. He has obtained a Bachelor of Architecture from VNIT Nagpur and has a postgraduate degree in project management from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. So I would like to hand over the floor to architect Akshay Lakhanpal. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me here, IIDA team. I'm very pleased to be here. I hope everybody is doing well these difficult times. I think wave has hit us pretty strongly. I hope everybody, you and your family members are doing well. I wish you to be safe. I think the topic today, the overall agenda for the seminar that's there, it's on the foyer to the future, right? It's kind of a window to the future. And the topic that I've chosen to speak about is hybrid workspaces. So what does the future lie in terms of the workspaces itself? And honestly, I'm not Nostradamus or an oracle to predict what's going to be the future like, but what we're going to talk about today is some of the principles of design of workspaces, which were valid pre-pandemic, which have been accelerated through the pandemic, and how would they impact, or how would they get impacted going forward in the future? So that's going to be the discussion today. I hope it's relevant to what you feel or what you see around you as well. Without further ado, I'll start with the presentation. So let's understand the intricate relationship. Obviously, a workplace design needs to cater to work and the workforce itself, right? So there's a very strong relationship between what's the work being carried out, how the workforce performs that work, and how do they collaborate amongst each other, and then how the workplace takes care of these two aspects on an ongoing basis. So these are given principles of design for workplace. Let's see how these aspects have been evolving pre-pandemic. So obviously, we know work has evolved extensively. We're in a stage where it's called Enterprise 4.0, where repetitive tasks are carried out by computers, by machine, by AI to a certain extent. That means the kind of work that people carry out today, to a large extent, require different kinds of skill set as they did a few years or a decade back. It involves more of creativity, more of teamwork, more of problem solving. Aspects which machines can't do, at least at the moment, are taken care of by people. And obviously, the whole way the workspaces were designed for the work 10, 15 years back to the way they're being designed today is very, very different. Now, some would argue that now we're moving into Enterprise 5.0, where it's going to be a co-collaboration between machines and people. I think it is getting evident today. Sectors across the board are adopting it. Organizations would start adopting it as well. And hence, this would be a dynamic going forward from a design perspective. And we'll dwell upon this at length towards the end of the presentation. So that's about work, how work's evolving. In terms of workforce as well, that's evolving extensively. And this is pre-pandemic. Obviously, we were looking at people who are traditional workers in a workplace. We were looking at contract workers. We were looking at gig workers, crowdsourcing of talent. All of these are relevant, were relevant yesterday, are relevant today. But what aspect has been added? And if you'd see, there's no mention of remote workforce, right? So remote workforce now becomes a large chunk of this as well. And it would vary per organization, per sector, per individual. However, the workforce ambit now increases, and hence the design for workplace would need to take care into design these considerations. So looking at the relationship between the workforce, the work itself, and the workplace, what are the principles of design that actually go into creating a workplace itself? Obviously, the first and foremost, the way it was approached pre-pandemic to a large extent was the fact that it needed to take care of the function first, so form follows function. So it needed to take care of all the functional aspects pertaining to design, pertaining to proximity of people, proximity of teams to each other, the adjacencies, whether functionally I as an individual in that space can actually perform my work productively or not. All of those aspects were the primary driver for design of a project. So you would get a brief, which would be tactical in nature to say that, okay, these many people, these many rooms, these many kind of functions, each function needs these kind of requirements, and then you would go ahead and meet those requirements, and then add a couple of layers. The next layer to be added after the functional aspects were taken care of was the layer of experience. How do you create experiences for people which are unique to that workplace, unique to the location where that workplace exists, unique to that organization, unique to the culture of that place? How do you create that level of personalization on top? And the third one, the third layer was the culture in the brand. How could you propagate the vision, the values of the firm to the people through the workspace itself? So this is necessarily the order as well in which the design would take place. And we'll see how each of these aspects have changed and has the order changed as well. So this was part of a discussion or a roundtable that I was part of last year at NASSCOM in February, right before before pandemic. And we were talking about these three aspects of design which are going to affect the future of design. The discussion at that time was also about talking about future of design. And there were a lot of technology enthusiasts, people from the technology industry as part of the NASSCOM conference. And one question that came up was that we're talking about all of those principles, which are fine, but we're forgetting how technology is going to disrupt this industry altogether. How an office may or may not be required at all. How a room next to your household could actually become the office the moment you stepped in. Technology would enable you to get into a meeting, get out of the meeting, and do your day-to-day work, and then step out at 6 o'clock and you were back at home. No commuting time, no aspect pertaining to all the time wasters, so to say, during the day. And this was debated that the technology exists, the adaptation would be 10 years hence, probably a decade later, how people would adapt to it, how people would adjust their schedule, how organizations needed to start thinking that people could work from home and things like that. And this is February, right? And come March end, most of us were stuck at home, completely isolated from the rest of the world. And this prophecy came true, not 10 years since, but a month or 6 weeks later. What emerged out of that discussion are some interesting aspects. So where initially everybody was very, very happy to write off the office itself, right? I mean, working from home meant a lot of perks. It was a pajama party of sorts. People were at home. They could lift their legs, work. They had various environments to work out of at home itself. They could actually sit in the balcony, do some creative thinking with a cup of coffee, looking at their plants, or if they had the ability to sit in the garden outside. That was a different kind of a work setting. You could actually work from your living room and do a Zoom party, which was really prevalent at that time. So you could actually change your settings depending on the mood, the kind of work that you were to do. And people felt that this is great. I mean, you can uplift your mood, you can use various settings in the household, and you were saving time from going to work. So these are extremely positive aspects of work from home, right? So there were some of the surveys that we carried out in the month of April and May initially, and the results were very promising. And hence, the world started talking about the fact that, is the office dead? Would people need to go back to an office ever again? How did an office contribute to the organization at all? I mean, remember, most of the organizations have their P&L, 8 to 15% of the P&L sitting on the workplace front in terms of the leases that they hold, in terms of the operational expenses that they have. Now, if they had the ability to wipe out a large portion of that expense and give a workstation, give a chair to their employees, would that suffice? Would that actually take care of people's need? And was office actually dead? At the same time, Leesman, which carries out these surveys for organizations to understand the satisfaction levels that employees have within the organization. So Leesman has this questionnaire that you attempt. It's given to all the employees in the organization. They rate the satisfaction levels for various amenities, functions that a workspace provides. And 70 plus is called the Leesman Elite, Leesman Plus kind of a score, which means that employees are extremely happy. There were 30, 35 odd organizations, actually offices, which have qualified for that 70 plus category. So that's the elite status that you get if you design the office to that level of satisfaction. During month of May and June, when Leesman carried out these surveys for employees working from home, the results were staggering. I mean, as I said, best of the results in the workspace, or the most amount of satisfaction that you would get out of a workspace, 70 plus was only 30, 35 organizations, a handful of them, actually not even organizations, offices, workspaces themselves. But while people were working from home, the average index was 71.3, which was already the elite plus kind of a category. So people were kind of comfortable working from home, which obviously instilled what you saw on the earlier slide in terms of world thinking that offices are dead, and why we would never need to go back to the office. Some bit of this notion was also coming from the technology industry, or the companies working towards enabling the technology functions for work from home. So obviously it did help their motive to make sure that people believed that this is a sustainable solution, whether for the organizations or for the people, and this could be an alternate option available to organizations and individuals. So as I said, initially it was extremely positive. As I said, no commute time, flexible hours, individuals were saving money, organizations were saving money. There were fewer distractions as compared to the whole travel and work from office perspective initially. And the productivity was going up for a large portion of workforce. Now, when I say productivity means the amount of time that you would spend carrying out work, right? So if you were commuting for 2 hours coming from Noida to Delhi, and commuting again back in the evening, 4 hours gone. Now those 4 hours got back to your schedule. So now whether you chose to spend half of that, or 3/4 of that, or 1/4 of that back into your work, that would increase your productivity automatically, right? Now, whether that productivity was effective or not, that was to be seen, but the whole productivity aspect did go up for sure. From an organizational perspective, the real estate costs would go down. Absenteeism reduced because people could carry out their personal work and professional work in tandem, and the retention recruitment rates were going up. I mean, you may have all seen organizations during this period of last 1 year going ahead and advertising the fact that they're allowing for work from home, or they're allowing for population to work from where they are supposed to, where they're residing in the moment, as a lure to pull people back to their organization, or pull people to their organization from a hiring perspective. So clearly these were indicated to say that this is all good and it is here to stay. However, as time moved on towards May or June, people started figuring out that there were certain aspects that were missing when you're working from home. And I think I mean, for global, I mean, some of these statistics, I mean, most of these statistics are global in nature, but if you look at Asia and if you look at India in specific, the situation is very different, right? I mean, you've got multicultural, multi-generational households, you've got parents, you've got siblings, you've got kids. Imagine if you had a household of at least 3 generations, and parents would need a room for themselves. Kids having their own classes would need rooms for themselves, each independently. Spouse working would need a room to herself or himself as well. So there were at least 5 or 6 rooms required in the house, and each needed that kind of privacy to be able to carry out a meaningful conversation, to have a meaningful output at the end of the day. How many households in India have that? and add to that the amount of effort that would be required to carry all of this out, in the sense that there was no time work-life balance. There was no time constraints to your day, right? I mean, the day could start at 7 in the morning and wouldn't end at 10 in the night. I mean, you could get a call request to join, or somebody would just pick up the phone and call, because everybody assumed that you're at home, you've got a flexi schedule, and hence it's possible to pick up the phone and speak to you, which wouldn't happen pre-pandemic, right? I mean, people would ask if they would call you beyond office hours and stuff. So these challenges were real. But these were, again, functional challenges. So saying that if the households in India were such that the houses in India were such that you could have 5 or 6 rooms, and obviously post-pandemic, kids would be back at school, both the spouses may not be working from home the same day. So things would obviously subside on that front. So functional aspects can still be taken care of. Was there something beyond functional? Was there something that people were missing beyond the ambit of a workstation or a chair, or space for themselves? Two, we carried out a survey alongside with our partners or the USI consultants, and that survey showcased, or actually conveyed to us, 2 big aspects that people were missing while they were working from home. The first one, the foremost one, was face-to-face interaction. They missed the fact that they couldn't sit right next to their colleague and converse and find solutions and move ahead very quickly. And the second one was ability to collaborate. I mean, the whole aspect of people getting together, brainstorming, finding solutions was felt to be far more effective when meeting in person versus meeting digitally. So there were real challenges which needed to be met. And if I were to take this term out of psychiatrist Edward Hallowell's vocabulary, what people were missing were the human moments. A quick chat with a colleague at an open staircase or right next to a water cooler, low-voiced gossip in the office itself, a short meeting at a colleague's desk, and just chatting and figuring out how to solve a specific problem that guy has or that lady has solved already, rather than fixing up a half-an-hour slot to discuss the problem, find the solution. The answer to that would be available to you in 5 minutes with just walking in the process. The body language and the cues of a leader who's leading a team, conveying what needs to be done or how it needs to be done, looking at the body language itself is far more stronger to the growth of an employee than actually reading a 500-page manual as to how to do what they're supposed to do. So obviously, the cues are very, very different. And we'd all agree, the joy of physically exiting a meeting room, knowing that you've crushed it, versus actually exiting out of a Zoom call or a Google Meet call is very, very different. I mean, obviously, the sense of success, the sense of achievement gets really, really bottomed out if you're digitally achieving what you're supposed to achieve physically. And last but not the least, the pat on the back, right? I mean, just getting a pat on the back from your boss saying that, okay, you've done a great job, or your colleague actually saying that you've done a great job, versus actually fixing a half-an-hour call to actually explain and say that, okay, you've done a great job and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the amount of time that you would spend to communicate that would be far longer, and the recipient would get out of that would be far lesser digitally than a physical pat on the back, right? So what people were missing were these human moments. And I think it's fair to say that design would get oriented around these human moments. It has been, as I said, in the past as well. But this component to cater to would become extremely important on a going forward basis. Now, asking the employees as to what they want post-pandemic, we carried out a pulse survey around a month back and wanted to figure out, and mind you, obviously India went through, and this region went through phase 1, and now it's the wave 2 of the pandemic. And between that was a period of close to 8-9 months where people had started going to the office. In fact, in our own case, we were back at office 100% strength for close to 6 months. No push, only pull, and I'll talk about that as part of my presentation. But we were trying to figure out, asking people again globally, saying that what did they feel, what did they want post-pandemic? Why would they go to an office? And large portion of them came back saying that for team meetings, for brainstorming, for collaboration, for client meetings, town halls, social interactions, that's the reason why people would go back to the office. So what does the future of workplace look like? Obviously, it's hybrid. There's no questions about it. But it's hybrid at two levels. One, from a workforce perspective, obviously the workforce is going to be far more hybrid, as we spoke about earlier. It's going to be far more hybrid, and hence that needs to be catered into design, and which changes a lot of stuff, and that will need to be, we'll spend the next few slides talking about that. That's one portion of hybrid, which is the workforce. The second aspect of hybrid is now the experience from an employee perspective, from a colleague perspective, would be dual in nature. You don't go to work to an office anymore. You go to work to a room as well within your household. You could actually be working from a cafe. So work from anywhere, right? Now, those experiences will need to be hybrid as well. It will need to be a combination of digital and physical experiences. No longer are the organizations still adamant about the fact that there'll be no free seating in the office, in the sense that earlier every person, at least the organizations which could afford it, had the technology available as well. They still weren't opting for a free address system where I could go and sit in the office wherever I pleased, because they felt that employees would currently love personalization on their workplace. They like putting up a family photo, a photo of their dog, or the last vacation that they went to. They liked to create a homage to their own personal life on their workstation. And that's the reason what organizations didn't want to take that away from people. But now, knowing fully well that there will be some bit of efficiency in the system, where any organization may work from a 5% to a 10% to 50, 70% of their workforce might actually be working from home at any point in time, why build for 100% of the workforce? That's going to be expensive and probably not the best idea as well. So what that would mean is that you would need to take away that personal desk away. But can you actually just take that away and not give anything in return? That's not possible, right? So how would you create a personalization of the workplace for an employee without having that personal desk? So that the technology comes into the picture. You need to be catered to from a personalization perspective wherever you're working out of. So whether you're working from home or from office, you should get that sense of personalization in your day-to-day interactions. So that is part of hybrid. And then the most important aspect of experience itself, as I said, and that's not post-pandemic, but pandemic has accelerated that whole bit, but man-machine co-creation, right? So today we talk about collaboration between individuals, and that's taken care of to a certain extent, to a large extent, depending on the design, depending on the organization, stuff like that. But going forward, creation would actually take place between individuals and machines. Where you would use, and when I say machines, not only robotics is one aspect of it, but AI, getting data, sitting in a place where 5 people are sitting, 3 machines that are putting out data, and then you're making sense out of it and making the next product, making the next strategy and stuff like that. So that bit of co-creation, our current places adept at handling that. So 2 aspects of hybrid: workforce and physical and digital experiences. So we're going to talk about the workforce aspect first, and then we'll get into the experiences. So Workspace is called Workspace because you come to carry out work there, right? I think that connotation is going to change. While work was the primary driver, it's now going to be culture. It's now going to be how that space brings that culture of the organization out, how it's going to be used from a social perspective. And that element is going to be very, very strong in terms of the design of the workplace itself. And second is going to be the ability of the place to enable solving of complex problems, enable human-machine collaboration. Those aspects would also need to be taken care from a workspace perspective. So highlighting these 2 aspects, and again, it differs from every organization, differs in terms of what is the adaptation at the moment. But mind you, the offices are taken at least 9 years in most of the parts of the country. And what is happening today may not be relevant tomorrow, and may be very, very different tomorrow. How does the workspace adapt to what is to come forth? And these are the thoughts that would need to be put in by the business, by the end clients and the users themselves, and by designers to be able to think through some of these, plan for those today, so that those can be implemented tomorrow when the need arises. So from a hybrid workspace perspective, As I spoke in the beginning, the principles remain the same. Obviously, principles are not going to change. There's some adaptation in the principles. And if you see, the order of design principle changes now completely, in the sense that, as I said, workspace is going to be a culture space now. So you would look at culture and brand first. The brief document for a workspace would need to now carry as to what's the vision of the firm and how the workspace can actually help reach that vision. That would be the first and the primary question that need to be answered in the brief and in the design itself. How would the space actually contribute towards the culture of the brand, the vision of the brand itself? The second layer, as I said, technology and physical experiences, blending all of those together to create a second layer of personalization experience for employees, potential employees, visitors, clients alike. So how would you use technology and personalization to do that? That would be the second layer. And the third layer would be the functional requirements. So the order reverses. The functional requirements itself would change. We were providing a desk for each person, at least to most of the organizations that were designing their offices. That's going to change. How will you provide various settings? I mean, today, as I said, you can actually lift your feet, do your work on a couch, or you could actually go out in the open and do your work. Does office setup provide for these settings? Can you actually provide for those as well to make sure that people are excited to get to office and not forced to come back to office? So all of those aspects will need to be taken care of. The functional requirements, they would change by themselves as well. The zoning would change. You would want to isolate certain areas. You want to make sure that there are different work settings available. In siloed work as well, different levels of concentration would need to be provided to people. So levels of distractions would need to be reduced in different settings and stuff like that. So all of those together would form the workplace of the future. Principles remain the same, thoughts remain the same, but how those adapt themselves to the new world would come out. So to answer that question earlier, is the office dead? The biggest thing is creativity needs people. People need collaboration, and collaboration needs offices, or at least spaces where collaboration can be carried out. Technology, as of today, as we know it, can connect, but cannot help create connections, right? So the human movements are required to be able to create or co-create together. Hence, the offices would revolve around those. And for this same reason, 100% of online companies, I mean, companies where the entire business depends on online, people remaining online, are actually taking up offline offices. I mean, if you've seen the news in the past, couple of months or so, the online-only organizations are consuming maximum real estate in India. Now, there is a reason for that, right? They also recognize that while the end product is online only, to create that product, you need a workspace to be able to create that kind of technologically advanced or something which is disruptive and actually can make a difference tomorrow. So the short answer, no, but it evolves. So what we've done, what we're going to do now is actually glance through some pictures and figure out as to what aspects would be given importance in terms of workspace design to visually communicate what I'm talking about. So obviously, this is one of the offices designed for a consulting company here in Gurgaon for a client. The ability to provide choices, and this is one of the spaces. This is one of the type of spaces which could be a barista kind of a space, or a coffee shop kind of a space, or a Starbucks kind of a space, which actually gives you an ability to break away from your day-to-day work. Or you might actually come and sit here instead of going to a coffee shop. Come and sit here, enjoy free coffee done by the best barista in town, and still meet an external colleague, or still meet your internal colleagues, and then walk away, not going to the office at all. Or a setting where you can actually get a couch and you can lift your legs and do that. Or a setting where you have the ability to sit in a garden of sorts within the office space itself, or a space where you're actually sitting out next to a playing arena, watching your colleagues play, and you're actually doing work as well. So different kind of settings to be able to provide the kind of work that you want to do. The office should be able to provide for those settings. The type of settings, the kind of settings, the intensity of those settings would depend on each organization, how they are. But the choice would need to be provided for sure. This is a picture of our own office where we broke away, and this was during the pandemic, and the design was happening in post-pandemic. We moved into the space. Was to create what you see at the bottom of the team tables. So what we did was we moved away from doing workstations for individuals, and we said that our job involves actually co-creation for specific types of projects. If we didn't do that, there would be silos within team. One team would not speak to the other unless absolutely necessary, right? But if you had a team table which was to take care of a ongoing project, and you book that table, and everybody from different departments who were responsible for that project would sit on that table for the day, for the allocated duration, they would obviously talk to each other and make sure that they're collaborating, and they're making sure that the end results are being met. So this aspect will be, again, different for different organizations. Again, to understand what is the intended output and how you can impact that would need to be defined in advance and then designed for. Going forward, I think one big change that some of these Zoom calls have brought in, and we've seen a lot of forwarded WhatsApps and stuff like that, where you don't mind today if your colleague or your own kid actually steps into the Zoom call and is asking you a question and stuff like that. You're actually now comfortable in being natural, right? The facade, you're actually okay to give your colleagues a peek into your day-to-day life. You're okay for your colleagues to see you, or your clients to see you, or your external partners to see you the way you are in terms of beyond the office hours as well, or beyond the office setup as well. And I think that's a big shift in terms of being able to be natural in your day-to-day work, not always bound by the fact that you need to appear in a certain fashion to be able to be taken seriously. And what it gives rise to is the fact that you can actually choose to be your own self. I mean, you can bring out, you can make your personality shine out the way it is. And I think that ability would need to be provided by the workspace. How can you actually give a space where people can actually be their natural self beyond their work time? Can they actually create that sense of belonging which sticks to them, where they feel that excitement to go back to that office every morning, or once a week, or once a month, whatever that time frame be, but they're actually excited to go back. They're actually happy to go back there, and not just going there because they've been asked to come and report their attendance for that day. So that bit of community building, that bit of association with the brand, that bit of building culture will need to be done extensively by the physical space as well, beyond the digital means. I think one thing which has never been debated, still remains strong, is interaction with the potential employees, potential employees' ability to judge the culture of the space the moment they step into it. A person who's coming for an interview may have done months of study on that organization to figure out what the culture is, what people stand for, and stuff like that. That may be proven right or wrong within 5 minutes of that person stepping into that space. The whole aspect of saying that, okay, is there compatibility in the way I work in this organization is, you can make that out very, very quickly. I mean, if the reception or the area adjoining the reception where you're asked to go and wait for next half an hour or 15 minutes till your interview starts, if it's a space like this, and you're not a person like this, then it's very easy for you to understand, okay, this is not the place that I would like to work. It is different from who I am. Or you might think that, okay, this is pretty cool, I actually want to be a part of this space or this organization. So you're able to communicate to an onlooker without actually having to put up terabytes of data online to show what your organization stands for, with just a snippet of the culture of the organization, the way people interact, by just giving a peek to them when they come to your office. Now, this could be a partner, this could be a potential employee, this could be a visitor, which might be a client or an external partner as well. So how do you convey company values? How do you convey the whole experience through the workspace itself? So this was and will remain an important component of workspace design. In terms of client experience, I think that's very important. I think that becomes even more important today. And we did see that again. This is our own office, and we, as I said, were operational out of this space for good or 9 odd months. And we did have client interactions at our office space. The whole aspect of the journey from saying that, okay, this is the brief, and up to the finalization or sign off of the design itself, the layout, the look and feel and stuff like that, the aesthetic aspects, furniture to be chosen and stuff like that, is anywhere between 2 to 4 week process. However, if you're able to bring in the client to a space where you're able to convey what the organization stands for, what all options are available to them, how do you co-create with the client himself or herself, that ability changes that completely, that time frame completely. So you can actually do this now we can do this in a week's time, what we used to do in 3 to 4 weeks time. So that ability to interact, find solutions together is far more stronger than saying that, okay, you don't like this, Mr. Client, give me 3 more days, I'll come back to you with another set of options. And then you go back to the set of options and the person doesn't like it again, and then there's another 3 days for that. Design is subjective, right? So you've got to hit the chord, you've got to figure out what works and what doesn't work within the ambit of cultural aspects, functional aspects, and all of that. How do you strike that balance? And that is done best when done when done in tandem with the creators. So I think this aspect is going to be far more stronger going forward. The whole ability to enable solutions to solve complex problems. I think whether it's digital, whether it's a space like this, which is far more physical, where you will co-create together, all the tools that will help you co-create are available right next to you. You can brainstorm, you can sit and chat, you can figure out what the end outcome will be. As I said, this could be physical, that could be digital, but creating spaces which would enable you to do that, find complex solutions to complex problems, is going to be a given as well. And I think beyond all of this, the most interesting and the most significant aspect of an office space is now it should be able to elevate the well-being of employees. In fact, Gartner did a study in the pandemic which conveyed that most of the potential employees today who are looking for a job are actually looking at what kind of work-life balance does the organization provide, and what kind of wellness initiatives that the organization has, which go beyond just saying that I've got plants in the office, right? I mean, how do you create that sense of wellness in terms of your HR policies, in terms of how the space works for you, how the systems in the space work for you, how overall you're able to provide a well-rounded wellness solution for the employees. And I think this is a key factor for most of the employees today, and should be for sure to be able to take to elevate the workplace experience to the next level. So given obviously plants, biophilia, obviously they contribute, but beyond that, in terms of can you provide auditory environments, can you provide olfactory environments, can you provide colors and aesthetics and graphics to counter or to create that micro environment. So using all of these aspects in a workspace design to create a workspace which is not only talking to an aesthetic appeal or pure functional appeal, is creating an environment and actually taking you away from your regular workstation or a work desk kind of a work style to a style where you want to create and you want to sit in a space which smells like fresh shower, or which smells like fresh herbs or trees outside, and you're able to listen to soothing, calming music, and you can see physical greenery and daylight in front of you. That takes you to an outdoor setting immediately. Or sitting in a barista within the office itself, which has very strong coffee fragrance. The music is like a lounge or a coffee shop music, cafe music playing there, and you're able to interact with colleagues. The same kind of buzz that you would get at Starbucks, you actually bring that buzz back to the office. So these micro environments in the office would be able to support well-being initiatives. So as an organization, what we've done is we've created these 5 parts of the pillars for workspace design principles, which will enable us and our clients to try and figure out what the workspace of the future looks like. We've spoken about how hybrid workspace can actually be designed using these principles. Let's also look at hybrid experiences and what do they mean and how would they be catered to. And this is a 3-4 year old study, but it said that people are now okay to get a hybrid experience in the office itself. AI decision making without human input, being okay to report to a AI based leader for yourself, or the ability of an organization and individual to implement deep learning and stuff like that, which is augmented creativity, which is you creating, but then the machine comes in and augments that the creativity, and then you go back and augment it further. So how can you use both human brain and machines to be able to create something which is really phenomenal? So these aspects are real and are coming our way. Technologies will need to support those. Now, one aspect which is very typical today is if I'm sitting on a Zoom call, and it was happening right pre the second wave, I would love to go back to the office and work, because personally that's who I am. I'm more comfortable working out of an environment which is far more officey, so that I can actually get my brain to think in that direction without any distractions, and come back home and then enjoy the personal life experience as well. But then there are other colleagues, for whatever reasons, may or may not be able to come to the office that specific day. Now, technology in today's times is not equitable. A person who's sitting in the same room as you gets a very different experience of that meeting as compared to the person who's actually sitting remotely. Now, this could be due to physical cues. This could be the environment that you're sitting in. If I'm sweating in the room, everybody in the room sweating, but you're actually sitting at home and you've got air conditioning, versus if it's the other way around. I mean, you're feeling uncomfortable because of the condition you're in, and everybody in the room is comfortable. You're not on the same page at all. So how do you make that equitable? And this is one of the examples which may not be possible, but again, watching visual cues, right? I mean, can you actually use AR, VR, and there are tools available today which can actually get you to come to that room yourself physically. I mean, earlier it used to be this Cisco telepresence thing, which actually did to the workstation height itself, and you felt as if you were sitting in a room. But today that needs to change. That needs to be a full body experience. The person needs to be digitally in that room to be able to do that. So that's one, and that's how it would make it partially equitable. But I think the other bigger aspect is, if I, as an employee, and I'm part of a 5-member team, and 4 of them are in the office that day, and I'm sitting at home, how would I be actually still be with them through the day? Because work is not going to be just that meeting of half an hour or 1 hour that's going to happen. It's going to be through the entire day, through discussions, through banter or whatever. You would actually pick up a lot of stuff which you would have missed out. So that fear of missing out, how do you cater to that through technology, so that you're part of that work day at office, sitting at home? I think these are some very complex technology problems, but I think it's only now that they're there, they will be solved as well. But then again, are the offices enabled to take care of this? Now, in this picture that I borrowed from an HBR article, obviously it's still shown as a meeting table, and people are going to actually sit around that meeting table. But if you're doing a digital meeting and you've got participants from outside, do you actually need a meeting table? Do you actually need something to put something on? Or do you just do a coffee table on the side and the rest of the meeting's open? Not known, right? But these are things that as designers we need to think through and provide for today, so that when these technologies come in tomorrow, it's just a lift and shift. You don't need to then adapt or change the whole place because you didn't think of this earlier. So this is how do you create equitable technology solutions, and how does the workspace actually cater to those equitable technology solutions? I think this is my last slide. I actually wanted to dwell upon how do you create, we were talking about earlier, the whole physical and digital experience of an employee. How do you create that bit of personalization through the entire day for an employee, irrespective of whether the person's in a workplace or at home? And when it the workplace, it is extremely intuitive. You don't need to physically do stuff or command stuff to be able to get that level of personalization. An example of this in the retail industry, which started 4 or 5 years back in the US, is a disruptor, right? Amazon Go, right? Which basically means you step into a retail store and you do your shopping. You just put them in your bag, and then you walk out. And when you're walking out, your credit card gets deducted for the stuff that you picked up. Now, that's intuitive technology where you didn't have to meet anyone, speak to anyone, absolutely contactless. You just picked up your stuff and you moved out. Shaves off a lot of time in the whole process. You're not sitting, you're not standing in a couple of queues to be able to get to that billing machine and getting it done. That shaves off probably 15-20% of your time. But more importantly, the whole experience is seamless. You could be on a call speaking to someone, picking up stuff, and then just move out without any, that 10-minute of detour can actually help you do what you would have taken an hour over the weekend to do, right? So that intuitive technology experience, can that be brought to Workspace itself to be able to enable personalization and the ability for people to feel welcome in the office space? So as an organization, we've developed something which I'm going to show you a brief synopsis of, but it's a tool to actually, bring that about. So this is a technology tool where you can actually invite visitors, book meeting rooms. Now the visitor gets the application link to download. They create their personal profile. Now, personal profile based upon what kind of coffee do you like? I mean, what kind of aircon temperature do you like? Things which you would generally not convey, but these things are very private to you. But at the same time, if the workspace knows it and is able to cater to it, nothing like it, right? Right from the whole journey to going up to the building itself, figuring out where in the building is that office, which is the floor where you need to get to the reception, the building recognizing you that you've reached, and obviously addressing your concerns where digital access to the space can be given, no need for an escort to come and pick you up and tell you where to go to. The whole journey from the parking up to the meeting room itself, showing you where to get to. And in the process, actually, while you're walking to your meeting room, asking you that you like this coffee, should we order for it? And then the pantry boy getting that order and getting it for you. The whole meeting room ambience changing to your personal settings, the one that you like, to be able to give you that personalization. I think things like these, and these are very, very small set of user cases, but then these use cases together can actually make so much of a difference to a employee or a visitor experience in the office. It becomes extremely intuitive. Figuring out as an employee where your colleague's seated that day, the one that you want to sit next to, and create, or figuring out the choice of that space based upon the music that's playing, or the buzz that's there, and the noise levels there, the lux levels there. So the choices are infinite. I mean, you can actually choose your space based on that. And then obviously the regular office amenities coming to your phone itself, and adapting to what you generally do to be able to make your day far more productive with the workspace itself. So these were some of the aspects which we need to think of as designers to be able to understand how hybrid physical and digital experiences would be a function of how the workspace is designed. So that's about it. Thank you for patiently listening to the presentation. I'd be happy to take questions if there are any. Till Gauri comes in, I was attending the last presentation, and I think it was really Architect Yatin Pandey. I think the whole aspect which he spoke about in terms of difference between history and tradition, saying that history is forgotten but tradition carries on. I think we did see a lot of disruption in some of these traditional ways of working, traditional ways of looking at offices and stuff during this whole 1 year period. And I think we will emerge smarter out of this whole pandemic. So I just wanted to put it out there. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Akshay sir, for enlightening us on this relevant topic of hybrid spaces. Currently, there are no questions from the audience, but I would like to ask, like, what is your opinion on office spaces or hybrid spaces in 2040, like in 20 or 30 years?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm not a oracle. I can't predict what's going to happen 20 odd years later. But I think fundamentally what we are saying is it is a possibility that the footprint of the office space might not be used just for work. And that's a real possibility. Work can now be enabled. I mean, there are discussions on whether that work will happen from home or whether it will actually happen from your hometown where the office of that organization doesn't exist. Or would we have street offices in the sense that you walk into a market and you have an office which you can actually utilize? It's a 10-seater office, you just utilize and walk out, and you've got a number of these built across the city. There are different formulae, and each organization will have a different formula to cater to, depending on their organization culture, their expectation, their vision. But I think one thing is for sure, it'll not remain stagnant. The way we've seen the office within confines of the office space itself the last 4 or 5 decades, I think that's going to change over the next 2 decades for sure. It'll be hybrid. To what extent will be a large function of that would be technology that comes in, which will be able to solve some of the problems that I brought about in the presentation. If those are solved, then again, the office is going to be utilized purely or largely to a social or a cultural need. So yeah, I mean, that's how it's going to change. I'm not going to take a stab at exactly what it's going to be because it's very difficult to predict at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be along those principles.
Okay, thank you so much, and it was lovely having you here on this platform.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.